Okay, happy holidays. Content is back on schedule, and today's video tackles the subject of what is the point of Eyasluna? Is this an upgrade? What role should I go for on it? Most will tell you the Twitter God role. This is the one everyone puts screenshots of on Twitter. Some sort of range boost. I like Hitmark more because it doesn't subtract stats. Ricochet or High Cal. Ricochet gives a stability bonus, so it kind of equals out to the flinch. But if you held an Eyasluna to my head, I would say high caliber rounds because I hate the thought of maybe dying to a sniper when I shouldn't have. So I prefer high cals. This role is amazing. It will do you well. I think a range masterwork and fast draw is great. I think Hitmark and a handling masterwork is great. If you get either of those combos, I think you're just done. It has very high base stability, so you don't need to spec into stability at all. There is an alternate role though that I've started to explore, and that's the idea of going into handling. The perpetual motion perk, when it's stacked up to 2, adds 20 handling. And so this brings it to a grand total of 97 handling if you have a handling masterwork and fast draw sight. I'm going to go ahead and bring up D2 Gunsmith by 7 Dre, and we're going to look at the various roles. The max range Twitter roll will give you a 35 meter damage drop off, which is similar to Ace of Spades. As we know, this has high caliber rounds and Memento Mori, so you reload for a kill clip effect, and it does stack with the high caliber rounds to make people look at the ceiling when you shoot at them. It is still one of the best hand cannons in the game, however, it does not offer the Icarus grip, so if you're a jumpy hunter like I am, you probably want to go a traditional legendary hand cannon just to have accurate in-air fire, although if you're planted, I think Ace of Spades is better every single time. So yeah, max range roll, 35 meters. How much are you giving up to go for handling? So we go from 35, almost 32 without rangefinder, 35 with, to barely 30. And this is again, fast draw, handling masterwork, high caliber rounds, and perpetual motion. And you do have to walk around. Some people say perpetual motion is a free perk, and I disagree because there's a lot of moments in games where it's advantageous to stand still and hold a very tight angle. Or you throw a rift, you throw a barricade, you have to stand still to cap a point, grab power ammo, revive a teammate. This isn't a 100% uptime perk, at least for me. However, it is pretty easy to upkeep, so I think it's worth it when compared to the other options. Like for example, Outlaw comes after the fight, Heating Up comes after the fight, Unrelenting comes after the fight. The only 3 that are doing something for you during the fight is Rapid Hit, Perpetual Motion, and Rangefinder. That's why you see these 3 highly regarded among top PvP players. So on the right hand column, this has a couple interesting perks. You can go moving target to bump the aim assist up by 10, which means that with one hand cannon targeting, you are at max aim assist, like on the helmet. I think 1 is 10 and 2 together is 15. Don't quote me on that, but I think that is the case. This works very well for a sniper hand cannon because you can use sniper targeting instead of hand cannon targeting and not get punished very badly. I still highly recommend this perk just due to the strafe speed that it gives, but the aim assist is icing on the cake. The real winner here is Headstone. This does something that other hand cannons cannot. Between Fatebringer, Palindrome, Dire Promise, it can do things to equalize the advantage that moving target does, but they can't magically get Headstone. So what does Headstone do? You headshot an enemy and a stasis crystal appears, and this has incredible synergy with the stasis subclass. Look at my build first of all. We went for 10 discipline and we do have to give up a couple things. I have to give up shotgun targeting, I have to give up taking charge, and I have to give up quick charge on my shotgun for high energy fire. So I'm running double utility kickstart. This means I can dodge as frequently as possible with 10 mobility, but I am giving stuff up. So on Arc, I run a sudden death shotgun. So with elemental capacitor, on an Arc class, it gives me handling, and then threat detector is an animation speed increase when somebody is within 15 meters of me, which always happens. Now I'm explaining the whole build because it'll make sense when I show you Revenant. So now on Revenant, I switched the shotgun to this retold tail. Quick Draw and Demolitionist. I would have preferred Snapshot, but Demolitionist plays to the idea of, well, I'm going to have my Glacier up even more. So check this out. Headstone. Read. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. So that means that if I get a headshot kill and then shoot the crystal that I spawn, I get a faster grenade. So this is a better version of Demolitionist because I could still use the crystal. I can still use it as cover. And just standing near the crystal, I take reduced damage from targets. So the way you can think about this is it's like inverse kill clip. It's defense clip. It's shield clip. They have to hit more shots on me because I land headshots on people. So what I often do is I will throw my Glacier down to start a fight to block cover to use as a platform. I'll use that to win the duel because they have to hit more shots on me. And then once I make a headstone crystal, I'll move towards them. Check on screen right now for an example clip of this. That's a bow. Wait, I haven't used the nade. Here, I'll use that later. Oh, 27? We take those. Oh, beautiful. Not today, Lawrence. And we're back. Hope you like that headstone action. Demolitionist also works, but if you're going Revenant, 100% headstone. So the way I've been running this is Shatter Dive and Winter Shroud, though if I feel like I'm not playing very aggressive to take advantage of slowing targets, I go for Grim Harvest because it gives 3 fragment slots, which allows for Whisper of Torment, just taking damage gives me a grenade, and Conduction, which gives me Intellect and Resilience, and pairs nicely if you have a Titan teammate who gives you a lot of shards. That helps me get my melee back very quickly without needing to run Gambler's Dodge, which means I can run the best shotgun in the game, the Found Verdict Time Lost, and take advantage of surplus. The other role in contention that I've been running on my Voidwalker with Blink and Astrocyte verse is this moving target role. So my thought process with Astrocyte verse is to move around and break some ankles, and moving target helps with that. Though upon, further inspection, I started realizing I might just like Fatebringer more because of explosive payload. So while Headstone and I guess Demolitionist for my Flux Grenade Arcstrider brings something unique to the table that Fatebringer doesn't, I think for my Voidwalker, it's a pretty 50-50 choice between Eyasluna and Fatebringer. And from experience, getting Fatebringer is quite a process. It's time gated, so you do have to wait a while to get it. And that alone means that for, $25, you could load up the dungeon today and farm the Eyasluna effectively. Now I'm going to pause here for just a second. If you are from the Twitch stream, this is the minute linked in the video where I am going to teach you how to farm Eyasluna efficiently, assuming that you've never touched the dungeon before. I made a cute little infographic here that shows the Ogre encounter drops the Matador and 1 piece of armor, and the Captain drops Luna or 1,000 yard stare and a piece of armor. So on this Captain encounter, the final encounter, it always drops 1 or 2 Luna or Snipe. So for example, if you started on the 3rd week and you only unlock Luna, that means there's a chance that you get 1 Luna and 1 armor, or just 2 Luna. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't play week 1 because you couldn't farm in week 1. I didn't play in week 2 because there was a bug fix in the middle of the week, which meant that if I started farming during that bug fix, I would only get 3 or 4 days of farming instead of 7 days of farming. So I elected to wait until the start of week number 3, and then I only unlocked Eyasluna on my Titan, which consequently also unlocked armor on my Titan. So that meant that my final boss loot pool was 1 Luna and 1 armor, which meant that my Luna drop rate was 100%, and my armor drop rate was 50%. So I either got 2 Eyaslunas or 1 Eyasluna and an armor. But later in the week, I went back for the Matador, so I completed the Ogre encounter. And it turns out that the Ogre encounter isn't efficient for farming the Matador unless you skip the Captain encounter altogether. And I do recommend just going for the Eyasluna over the Matador because of how uniquely it can change your playstyle on Revenant and Arcstrider. So yeah, I went for the Matador later in the week, and this meant that my loot pool was still 1 or 2 Luna, but sometimes it gave me 1 shotgun or armor. So it's like loot pool A and B, where loot pool A is the Luna and loot pool B is the shoddy or the armor. Hope that makes sense. So now moving into week 4, this week, whenever my hunter completes it, it's most likely going to drop the 1,000 yard stare and 1 armor piece. The armor is character bound, the weapons are account bound. So this means on my hunter, it's going to drop Luna or 1,000 stare, and it could be 1 or 2 of those, right? So it could be either 2 Luna, 2 1,000 yard stare, 1 of each, or 1 single. And then the other thing that it drops sometimes is the shotgun or the armor piece that I get. So if you think about it, this means my Matador drop rate stays at around 20%. And this goes away when I run out of fresh characters, because every subsequent week I complete this on the same character, I get a different armor piece, which means that there's more armor that could take the place of this shotgun. So my rate gets worse and worse and worse. Moral of the story is, when it comes to Destiny 2, let other people do the heavy lifting first and then do the efficient method later, because oftentimes rushing to do things messes up your loot pool and makes farming very inefficient. Now, back to our paid programming. Here we are, Hunter. Let's look at Fatebringer. I think Fatebringer brings a lot to the table. This is the max range version. Yes, I did get lucky with this. It has the option of killing wind for when you play something like Way of the Wraith, where explosive rounds would not trigger flawless execution, so that's an easy swappable. But it also has explosive payload. Everybody knows, they call it the flinch bringer for a reason. Explosive payload is amazing. And then we have opening shot to push the range out even further. And yes, this roll right here, 3 taps at Ace of Spades distance. So if you have to spec into rangefinder with Luna to do that, but you could also just get it on Fatebringer with an Adept Icarus grip to bridge that gap, wouldn't you just want to go Fatebringer because the zoom is less? The answer is maybe. For a player like me who has low sensitivity preferences, I don't like rangefinder because that means I have to move my arm more to track a target in close quarters. However, to some players and controller players, they might like rangefinder because it gives you more beneficial aim assist cones at that medium distance where you want it. And at close distance, you might just use your shotgun. So, I think I value Fatebringer on a lot of my Gemini Jester builds because of how I can extend Frenzy. I think I've made a video about how I like Frenzy in the past, but I think I also might like it on my Voidwalker because of this perk right here, Eye of the Storm. As your health gets lower, there's a handling boost, which is very important, but more importantly, an accuracy boost. So my thought process is, if I get Arrowhead Break and a Handling Masterwork here, and then Eye of the Storm kicks in, it's quick draw. But of course, you have to work for it. So you have to work for Perpetual Motion. You have to work for Eye of the Storm. Dire Promise, you don't have to work for anything at the cost of 5 or 6 or 7 range, something like that. So if I play an Arc subclass, Elemental Capacitor increases my handling to 100. So I don't have to move around. I don't have to be weak. None of that. I can stand still. Opening shot. Extra 20 range on the first shot of attack. So apples to apples, Eyasluna is better than Dire Promise. But in a gameplay, in a real scenario, I think Dire Promise might be the same, if not better, because there is no activation cost. You just play the game. Let's look at this on paper. So to review, we have the Twitter roll. Max range, 35 meters, Ace of Spades. We have the handling roll. 30 meters, but you have to move around to get 97 handling. Then we have the Fatebringer, max range. You need that Adept Icarus grip to bridge the gap to Ace. Flinchbringer, explosive rounds. You don't get high cals, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. And then opening shot or Eye of the Storm to give you more handling. Also, if you Gemini Jester or just play really aggressive, Frenzy is amazing because it's a 50 handling boost for playing the game. It also is a damage boost, 15%. This is the role that I will probably be farming for. I value handling a lot, and I think I also want one in the future with like Frenzy and Tunnel Vision, just because of the reload synergy that these two provide. And Frenzy does go above and beyond the aim assist cone or whatever, so it bends bullets. I think Killing Wind does the same, but I really like the idea of reloading Tunnel Vision. Just sounds fun. Now we have to talk about Palindrome, but I'm going to pump the brakes on that and talk about Dire Promise first. So if we activate Elemental Capacitor, you're going to see here with Hit Mark and a Range Masterwork that we go to exactly 100 handling. You could have Crossfire and maintain that, but you lose Precious Stability. And I don't think that's worth the, look, 3.5, almost 30.6. Then we go 30.3. So that's 0.3 meters. I think I'd rather just take the stability. So we get 63 range. We compared that to what? Luna's 67 on the handling roll? 69, something like that. Nice. Yeah, that's what you're giving up. But you're gaining opening shot, which is 20 range. As much as I hate this gun, I think this answers the problem of my Arcstrider build. And I'm going to show you how I've solved Arcstrider. How I play it now. So let me go load up a private match. In the meantime, watch this clip of how I cycle flux grenades.
You've lost the lead. Shut the enemy down.
Okay, so welcome back. This is my Arcstrider build. It uses flux grenades as a sniper rifle. So it's like I have a hand cannon, shotgun, and then on a 1 minute cooldown, my sniper rifle. Nobody wants to wait a minute. So here's how I solve that. I play bottom tree Arcstrider. So when I'm critically wounded, grenades recharge drastically faster, and I'm going to be critically wounded because I'm going to play the game. I use Gemini Jester, so if I sprint, it recharges my dodge ability and gives me a sprint speed bonus. This is a match made in heaven. So watch this. Dodge, watch my bottom left of the screen. It says focus breathing and perpetual motion is getting cranked up at the same time. Now, an interesting thing about perpetual motion is you have to be moving. You can't just run into a wall. It actually tracks the momentum of your character. So if you want to activate perpetual motion, you gotta AD strafe to the side to get it to work, or just like spin your mouse. So fun fact. The most important perk on the Eyasluna for the Arcstrider for me is ricochet rounds. I know that I value high caliber rounds for a lot of reasons, but this one might surprise you. Because I'm so dependent on the flux grenade, because it is my win condition, I want to be able to damage myself whenever somebody decides to camp and take my 1 minute cooldown all the way to 35 seconds. I'm going to just do this, keep myself weak at all times. And the best part is at the higher levels, this turns into a mind game. If someone's stream sniping me and it's like, oh, Cammy likes to camp his grenade, and I just do this in the corner, you're going to see 3 Dawn Blades Icarus dash around the side thinking I'm weak, when they're walking into an ambush. So it's a nice little mind game there. So I have lately liked Dire Promise a little bit more, despite it not having Demolitionist. I'm going to be farming the dungeon with Hoplite soon, so if you're watching this live, twitch.tv/cammycakes, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, same effect, no Demolitionist. Demolitionist, I think, gives a smaller bonus for a primary than a special weapon, so it's not really going to do that much for you, but when you consider a percent chunk off the longest grenade in the game, and if that grenade's your win condition, I think Demolitionist is worth picking over Moving Target. Not to mention that the reload is pretty clutch. So in those situations where you're like shooting a Titan barricade down to prevent a revive, you break the Titan barricade, and then you chunk a grenade at the person freshly getting revived, and not only are they dead, but you're reloaded again. So, pretty good. So you reply to that. So the final thing to mention here, palindrome. I do think it's fair to compare weapons in different slots if you don't plan on using an exotic. So if we're talking about Chaperone, obviously I can't talk about Eyasluna because the hand cannon that matters in that conversation is palindrome. The important thing here is quick draw. It gets real quick draw. So this will boost the equip speed, but not the stow speed. And I still think that's very valuable because oftentimes I go from my shotgun to my hand cannon. I still value having high inherent handling, but getting this for free lets you spec into other things in your build. It's very useful. And in the case of my Arcstrider, if I'm shooting the wall to hurt myself in a pinch, then I'm also proccing high impact reserves and getting closer to that extra damage boost, which lets me kill them with 2 head, 1 body instead of the usual 3 head. Not to mention my favorite shotgun right now is the Wastelander because of the reticle, the hipfire reticle. It doesn't necessarily have better hipfire, but my tracking with it is so much better. So I think because it helps me aim, I'm just going to use this. Yes, it has the activation cost of perpetual motion if I do not go for quick charge. If I go for quick charge, I think I'm just going to slide shot. That makes sense. Anyhow, my voice is kind of dying here. I hope you learned something today as to what is important on an Eyasluna. Whatever you think is the best for you, just do that. Don't let other people tell you what to use. I told you what I value and how Eyasluna fits into my builds. So to recap, we have Flex Grenade. I use either Eyasluna with Demo or Dire Promise specifically because it gives me very cranked handling without going into quick charge. On my Revenant, I go into Headstone, Perpetual Motion, Demo Shoddy, and I play off of Glacier Grenades. I play around the crystals I make from headshots and use them to either recharge my grenade or to use as cover and damage resistance. On my Voidwalker, I think I'm opting for Fatebringer, and on different subclasses on my Hunter, I think I prefer Fatebringer overall. What else? The final thing is PvE. If you are playing PvE, I think the role to go for is Armor Piercing, Unrelenting, and Headstone. Because if you make a Headstone Crystal and then detonate it, Unrelenting procs off the detonation. This is also a really good role for a Revenant and Rumble, although I don't really want to be making recommendations purely off Rumble. So with that being said, I think that's everything to say about Eyasluna. Take care, everybody. I appreciate you.